One of the reasons that our Airbnb is such an amazing success simply comes down to the marketing. Hey there, and welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. If you're looking to get more sales, more customers, master your marketing, and ultimately take control of your retail or e-commerce business, then you're in the right place. I'm Selena Knight, a retail growth strategist and multi-award-winning store owner whose superpower is uncovering exactly what your business requires to move to the next level. I'll provide you with the strategies, the tools, and the insight you need to scale your store. All you need to do is take action. Ready to get started? Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Now, if you have been following along for a while, last year you would have heard me as I went through my adventure of creating the Country House Rescue. It was a little shack that I had in the country. I had had tenants in there for about 7 years. And it came to my attention that the place had been completely trashed, even though I had an agent in place managing it. So they were sending me reports saying everything was fine. And then through this random discussion with my brother-in-law at a belated Christmas lunch. So because of the pandemic, we didn't have our Christmas lunch until like the middle of January, I think it was. And I mentioned that I had this property in this town, and I was getting to the point where I think that some work needed to be done. And he said, my cousin lives in that town. I can get her to drive past and have a look. And so she did. And she came back and she said, the place is disgusting. We ended up getting her access into the property. And in the meantime, through all of this, when we found out the property wasn't being looked after, we gave the tenants the eviction notice to leave, which was, I think, 3 months they had. We had a big argument with the agent. So we ended up parting ways with the agent. Lots of bad blood, let's just say, happened. And it ended up being that we couldn't get rid of the tenants. They just didn't go. So we had to go through all the legal channels. And so even though we had evicted them or given them the notice to leave at that point in December after Christmas, it wasn't until, I can tell you the date, it was the 29th of August, because it was Lana's birthday, that we finally got the house back. So, nearly 9 months for us to be able to reclaim our own property. And you can imagine, by then, the place had been like, if it was trashed, it was even more trashed. There were holes in every door, big sections of the wall ripped out. They had these dogs that they kept chained up. So there were these massive sort of 3 feet holes in the backyard. Anyway, it was a freaking nightmare. We had originally planned to turn that property into an Airbnb. So the idea was to go down, renovate it, make it very low maintenance, and to rent it out as an Airbnb, because it's a beautiful country town and there is no accommodation apart from a couple of really dodgy 80s motels. And I mean, those ones that you see in on TV where they pull up and it's $30 a night. Well, in this town, they're not $30 a night. They're like $150 a night. But the decor, everything is straight out of the 80s, and they haven't been updated anytime since. And so there was definitely the opening to put an Airbnb into that town, because there were new websites popping up. They were all very millennial based and Instagrammy, and we could just see that we could make this property really lovely, and it would be a great way to have the money coming in, but also not having those long-term tenants who potentially could look at damaging the house again. So that was Airbnb adventure number 2. And if you've been following again for a while, you'll know about what we call the beach house. This was a property that I purchased. So the Country House Rescue, I purchased like 15 years ago for peanuts. It was like I bought it for not an awful lot of money at all. I think it was like $100,000. Now, the other house, the beach house, is in a beautiful seaside town, south coast of New South Wales, about 3.5 hours from here where we are in Sydney, and it is just gorgeous. You go there and, you instantly feel like you're relaxed, even though where I live in Sydney is maybe 10 minutes from the beach. The funny thing is I don't go to the beach very often here. Now, our house, the beach house, is only about 5 minutes from the beach, but we go to the beach multiple times a day. I'm just going with the reason you don't do it when you're at home versus when you're at holidays is the fact that you're on holidays, right? So the beach house has always been an Airbnb. Yes, we go down there. Generally, we go down there, we go to the beach, but we also end up doing maintenance and stuff like that. But the beach house has done exceedingly well when it comes to revenue. And I credit that to a few things, but mostly to the marketing that we've done for that property. And I think my background having this business, having had a marketing agency, being in retail, retail is all about selling, right? So if you don't know how to market whatever it is you sell or market your business, because when we're talking about the marketing pillar is getting people to know that you exist and getting people to want what you're selling. So those two things were critical from the moment that I set out to renovate the property and then also to get that property booked. The same thing happened at the Country House Rescue. When we originally went down there, we were setting it up for an Airbnb. However, that didn't end up happening. And I'll just quickly tell you why. It didn't end up happening because there were not the facilities required to manage that. It was nearly impossible. Don't forget, this was during the pandemic. It was nearly impossible to get a cleaner. So even though we had used a cleaner a few times, we could not get anyone to commit to being able to clean on an ad hoc basis. Whereas at the beach house, it is in a town where the majority, I would say probably 50% of the properties in that town are short-term rentals, Airbnbs. So there is a huge gig economy because they aren't worried about not having enough work because there is always going to be more properties that need cleaning. So in Cowra, which was where Country House Rescue was, it was almost impossible in fact, it was impossible. It wasn't almost impossible. It was literally impossible to find someone who would commit to doing those regular ad hoc cleans because it's not a touristy town. People can't build an entire business on that ad hoc gig economy nature. And by the same token, if you're ever running an Airbnb, I can tell you that two things are needed for you to do this smoothly. The first one is everything hinges on your cleaner. They'll just let a lot of things slide, but they will not let dirt slide. So you need to have the cleaner. That's number one. And the second thing is you need a really good handyman because people break shit. I don't even know how some stuff gets broken. We have had curtains that the curtain rod holders get ripped out of the walls. It's how? I've never ever in all my life managed to do that, but different curtains all around the house have had this happen. We've had beds that have been broken. We're not even talking about your usual cups and things. We're talking about stuff that the handyman has to go and fix. Windows that have been broken. Again, you would not believe the stuff that gets broken in an Airbnb. So you have to have that person that you can call on. Now, when we were renovating the Country House Rescue, because we moved down there for 3 months to do that, finding a builder or a handyman was, again, nearly impossible. It's why we ended up doing so much of the work ourselves because we couldn't actually get anyone to come and help us. And so the idea, this is where you have to be quite flexible when you set out on a project or a business, is that if all the components aren't there, then you don't have a business. You don't have a viable business, MVP, minimum viable product. I couldn't have 2 out of the 3 things I needed. All I had was a property. I couldn't find anyone to clean it and I couldn't find anyone to maintain it. And so that was when we made the decision that we would just sell the property. I was kind of over the town anyway. And once I'd moved past the Airbnb kind of concept, I was just ready to renovate it and get rid of it. So that's what we ended up doing with Country House Rescue. We still have the beach house. Now, as I said, the beach house performs ridiculously well. So it is in that quiet sort of country town, which is it's known lots of Sydney-siders go down there. It is really busy during the summer season because it's on the beach. Winter, not so much. But yet we have an occupancy rate even through winter on the weekends of about 90%. That's ridiculous. And again, I put it all down to marketing my business. And I love property. Like, I'm always looking for the next property. So what I want to tell you is 4 things I want to talk to you today about, like the lessons that I have learned, the marketing lessons I've learned from having an Airbnb and selling something to a target market that I don't have intimate knowledge of. So we had the property, but we had to choose who we were going to target when we put the property together. So I'm going to tell you 4 things that you can use. And let's go with 4 things that you can pretty much do to your website, so your e-commerce site, 4 marketing lessons that you can implement in your business that I've learned from my Airbnb. And a lot of this is relative to people with e-commerce websites. But hey, if you've got a physical store, I'm sure you'll get something out of it as well. Number 1 is the copy is super important. Now, I should just bring the copy up. It took me a while to write this. Let me just go Airbnb. I'm typing this. I'm doing this all on the fly. Airbnb. I'll put a link to the property just in case you want to have, a bit of a sticky beak. It's called Southern Belle Mollymook, and I've got to find it on Airbnb. This is going to be one of my other things I'm going to talk to you about in one of my lessons. But it took me a little while. And so when we were so understanding your target market is kind of number 1, because when we put this property together, we knew that the people who would rent this would probably were going to be families, and potentially even 2 families, because it's not really cheap, right? So especially in the peak season, we're talking several thousands of dollars if you want to hire for a week, and you have to hire for a week over the Christmas period. So the people who were going to come there was a good chance it'd be 2 families, or it would be like one larger family. And look, I can tell you from the conversations we have with our guests, that is exactly who we get. We quite often get a family, kind of our age, with the grandmother and the grandfather, or we get the grandmother and grandfather who invite the son, the grown-up son and daughter, or they invite the grandkids, or we get the 2 families. That's generally who ends up in our house. But I knew that when I was writing the copy for this, and I'm not a copywriter, right? When I was writing the copy for this, I had to be different to everybody else. Because like I said, 50% of this town is short-term rentals. So I had to stand out. I'm just going to tell you like 2 sentences that I begin with. It says, after a hard day building sandcastles, rinse off in the outdoor shower before heading inside for a nice, cool drink. With reverse cycle air conditioning and a bonus gas heater, you'll feel comfortable all year round. You can even gaze out over the greenery whilst the kids play in the backyard. And when dinner time rolls around, either cook up a storm in the chef's kitchen, whip up a feast outdoors on the barbecue, or if cooking just isn't on the menu, stroll down to the end of the street for a no-fuss meal at the friendly bowling club. There will be no stress getting ready for a relaxed dinner in one of the 2 newly renovated bathrooms. And if you're feeling fancy, frock up and stroll down to the rooftop bar at Bannister's Pavilion for a cocktail and a delicious meal. It goes on. But can you see how I've painted the picture? Because I know that when people are going to our house, it is to relax, it's to get away, it's to spend time with their families. I also just found a typo there that needs to be fixed up. But I've written all of that copy to appeal to my target audience. So before you even start out on the marketing lesson, know who your target audience is. You cannot be for everyone. We are not for a couple. Occasionally we get people who email us and say, oh, it's just my wife and I was wondering if you could lower the price. We just can't, because the cleaning fee makes it completely prohibitive. You could actually stay at the really fancy Bannisters for what it would cost us to rent it out for one night. And so we know who the target market is, and why they are coming to our house. So they want to relax. They want to sit on the balcony. They want to have a drink. They want to go to the beach. They want to know that the kids will be safe in the backyard. All of those things create the picture that allow my customers or our guests to want to be in that space. And it is the same for you when you are writing copy, either on your about page or on your product page. You have to get into their heads. You have to understand the customer journey, know why it is that they want your product. Is it, and I'm going over to you guys here, do they want your product for convenience? Do they want it as a luxury item? Is it a status symbol? We talk a lot about this in the marketing pillar in Scale Your Store. These are what I call the leverage points. And you have to use them. You have to leverage them so that you can get your customers to want what you sell. Now, if my Airbnb was in the city close to a hospital, I would put something there about having the convenience of being able to walk to everything or being able to drop in on a sick relative if they needed to without needing a car. When you know your target market and you know your customer journey, you know what that audience wants from you, which means when you have to change out your copy on your website, and realistically, even if you're just doing this on your top 10 products, it makes a ridiculous difference. Because can you see when I'm saying relax on the deck, when I'm saying get ready in the newly renovated bathrooms, when I'm saying sip your bubbles while you overlook the leafy outlook, that is going to allow people to feel something, and feelings are what sell. So marketing lesson number 1 that I've learned from owning an Airbnb that you can implement into your retail or e-commerce store is know that copy is super important. And if you understand the customer journey, writing that copy is actually not that difficult. Second marketing lesson that I've learned from my Airbnb: automation is key. Now, I've probably talked about this on the podcast before, but in the lead up to someone coming to stay with us, I send out a series of emails. And I took this straight from my e-commerce days. Like, I looked at the whole buying journey and went, how can I pretty much replicate that for hospitality? I've never had a hospitality business before, but it doesn't mean that I couldn't take those same principles. So when somebody joins my email list or when somebody books, we send them a welcome email. We tell them what to expect. We send another email that we've created. It's called an Explore Mollymook guide. And so we've just it's about a 30-page document. It's pretty cool. It's got different places to eat, different things to do with the kids, like all the fun things that we do. And we send that out. And of course, they get added to our email list because here's the thing, probably not relevant to you guys, but when somebody books through Airbnb or booking.com, you don't get their actual email address. You get like a masked email address. So when we send them the email about downloading the guide, they have to join up into our Klaviyo account. And so it means that we end up with their actual email address, which means we can market to them down the track. We send out, I'm going to say we have 6 emails that go out before somebody stays with us. So we get one when they first book, another one a few days later with the Explore Mollymook guide, and then the rest are all based on the date that they stay. So I think a week out, we send them like a shopping list, like not a shopping list, but different places to shop. And the clickbaity title on that one is The Secret Hack That Sal Always Uses. Something funny like that. And it's how I always do a click and collect grocery order or a grocery delivery before we arrive. Because especially at Christmas, the town gets flooded with people, and it gets also flooded with people who are on their way to someone else. So lots of travelers. It's the main kind of town that's got all the grocery stores. And you cannot believe sometimes you will wait half an hour to pay. Whereas if I've got click and collect, I just kind of wander off and I get my things, or I'd get the delivery service if I really can't be bothered. And that simple hack, not everybody has to use it, but it's really nice for people to know. And it gives them enough time to kind of put a shopping list together and to do that order. Now, the next thing that I have in there is a recipe. I don't know if you remember, I did a podcast a while ago with Michael Haas, and we talked about how recipes are kind of this universal thing that any business can use. Retail businesses, e-commerce business, accommodation business. You would not believe how many people replied to that email saying, it's a really simple recipe it's a barbecued lamb with some feta and some greens and some pomegranate. Super simple. But you would not believe how many people replied back to those emails, that one in particular, and just go, oh my God, this sounds amazing. We can't wait to try it. But throughout all of this, their anticipation is growing. They're getting more and more excited about their upcoming stay, which is what we want. We want them to be excited. We want them to enjoy the experience as much as possible. And that lead up to buying, for you guys, that lead up to actually clicking the buy button is when we need to feel secure. You can imagine as a customer, if I'm sending you these emails about grocery shopping and recipes and things to do, you feel really secure that you're going to turn up to a place that looks like the pictures. We're quite receptive. We reply to emails. Like, this is going to be a really nice experience. There's no dodge, right? You're not going to turn up to some super seedy place and not be able to get in. That is what you should be doing in your business as well. Leveraging automation. The last email that they get is post-stay, where we ask for them to leave a Google review or a review on, say, Airbnb or booking.com or whatever. And as a result, just that simple email, our reviews have skyrocketed. So we have, I think, 70 or 80 reviews on Airbnb and several on Google. You know, sometimes you get people say things like, oh, we had one just recently where someone said there was no baby gate at the top of the stairs. And so I had to move a chair so my kid didn't fall down the stairs. Now, we took that on board. We've actually installed a baby gate, but it also gives other people, you know, that kind of slight, in air quotes, negativity allows people to make executive decisions on whether this product is right for them. So actually, that was going to be my third one, having reviews. So the first one was, remember, the copy is super important. The second one is leverage automation. Like, automation is key, and automation creates a customer experience without you having to do anything. Once you've built that Klaviyo flow out, you don't have to touch it. But if you can get your customers on board, if you can get them excited about shopping with you, or in my case, staying with you, then they're going to be so much more receptive. And also, sometimes, you know, kinks happen. We once had somebody where the batteries died in the door and they couldn't get in the door. But this experience, leading up to this experience, it smooths out any potential negativity. You know, there's been occasions where someone couldn't find the toilet paper because it was in one of the drawers in the bathrooms. But instead of getting cranky, they haven't got any negativity there. So using automation to build the customer experience is something you should definitely be doing. And I really do think, especially if you're using Klaviyo, there's about, I'm going to say 6 or 8 really essential flows that you should have in your business that is going to help you not only build that customer experience, but also to help you re-engage your customers or engage your customers, and also to make you more money, right? At the end of the day, that's why we're in business, to make money. Okay, copy, automation, and reviews are critical. So I think we've talked about this so many times on the podcast, but don't think that a negative review is going to stop you from getting business. As I said, we have a couple of those, maybe not ridiculously negative, but having those reviews, one, gives you credibility because people can see that you aren't perfect. 2, it allows people to make their own decisions. So something like the stairs, we've had other people email, say, you know, I've got an elderly mother. How many stairs are there to get into the property? And I think there's 5 stairs to get into the property. That allows them to make a decision whether this property is right for them, because there is nothing worse than buying something and then finding out it's not right for you. I don't know about you, but I would much rather not have to deal with a refund or a return than having to go through the anguish and the poor customer experience that comes with that. So reviews are so important, and reviews can be in more than one place. If we're talking about reviews, my favorite review platform I've got kind of two. One, if you're on Shopify, is Loox, Loox, and I'll pop the link to that in the show notes. It is great for user-generated content. It is very kind of Instagram-y. It allows customers to post pictures. I mean, I don't use this on my Airbnb, obviously, because you can't add a plugin. So Loox, I think, is about, I'm going to say between $20 and $30 a month. And the other one is Okendo, which is a little bit higher price point. I'm going to say it's about $90 a month, but it is kind of next level. It's going to allow you, especially if you're in something like fashion, to put different criteria in there. Like, is it true to size? Does it run big? All those kinds of things. I'll pop links into both of those into the show notes if you want to have a look. But please, 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 if you do not have reviews yet, you have to switch them on. Even if it is the most basic plugin that is free, I would rather you have that than nothing. But honestly, the $30 that something like Loox is going to cost you a month is going to save you money from returns and refunds. And it's also going to make you money because it gives your store credibility and it allows people to make those educated decisions. All right. Speaking about making educated decisions and going back to the customer journey, what are we up to? 1, 2, 3, 4 is pictures sell. We totally buy with our eyes. We totally care about how things look. And this is so important in e-commerce, but it is just as important if you have a physical store and you're not changing out your windows every week, at a pinch every 2 weeks. If you're not doing that, you're not giving any reason for people to come back and buy. But I want you to think about going back to that customer journey. And again, this is something we do in depth in Scale Your Store. We walk through how to put the right offer in front of the right person at the right time. And you guys need to do that too. When you think about your customer journey and your customer target market, what is important to them? So in our case, people are coming to get away. They want to see the picture of the back deck. They want to see the porch swing that we've got with the beautiful cushions. We've got outdoor setting. We've got barbecue. We've got pictures of the district views. We've got pictures of the bathrooms because people want to relax in the beautiful big soaker tub. We have these rain showers. So we've got pictures of those. What is important? Like if we go back to that concept of if I had a property that was, say, in an urban area near a hospital, you might want to put a map that says this is where we are. And you might have to do that for your store too. Maybe that is really important, is having a picture of this is how close we are to these different things. Maybe it's a train station or a bus stop. But pictures sell. And I know quite often you're restricted on the pictures that suppliers give you, but it is okay to kind of add in some of your own. In this day and age, we can do a lot with an iPhone, right? So what is your customer looking for when it comes to that product? Is it, a side-on view? Is it what it looks like on a model that is an actual person, not a stick figure skinny person? I'll be honest, if you've got something like homewares, you can do, someone can do all of this stuff inside of Photoshop for you, where they're placing things like cushions. Or my friend Fiona, who runs an art gallery, they have someone who places their artwork into what looks like somebody's home. And that there are programs that do this. This is not something that you guys have to do. You just get somebody to do it for you. Those simple little things make the buying decision easier, but they make marketing your business so much easier because when people have a choice, they've got 10 places they can buy the exact same item. If they can go to your website and see something just that little bit different, maybe it's the copy, maybe it's the picture, maybe it is the reviews, then those little things that you probably are overlooking when it comes to your marketing, that is going to be what gets you the sale. Okay, so we talked about copywriting, product descriptions, automation, reviews, pictures. Like, I cannot stress how important pictures are. And pictures also means like vignettes inside of your store as well. And my last one, so I think we ended up with 5. I think I said 4 at the beginning, but I think we've got 5 now, is please own your marketing real estate. Own your marketing real estate, which means do not build your brand on somebody else's platform. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago in that sales podcast I did, where people saying my Instagram got hacked, my Facebook got hacked, my TikTok got hacked, and I've lost my 150,000 followers. Well, why weren't those 150,000 followers in your email database? Because if they were, it wouldn't be an issue. Don't build your entire marketing business on somebody else's platform. When you have somebody inside of your POS system or inside of your own email marketing, that's what we call owned marketing or owned customer data. You own it. Now, sure, you could potentially have your emails database, your email service provider shut you down. Very rarely happens, but it doesn't mean they won't let you have your data back. They'll let you take your customer list out. So you own them once they come into your system. You do not own them when they're on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or Pinterest. And when you build an entire marketing campaign that's built on social, all it takes is we're not even talking people, right? We're talking bots, an automated system that says, oh, your system is now closed. Your page is shut. You can't run ads. You cannot have that when you're in business because you have to sell. You have to be marketing your business constantly. And so I'll just tell you just quickly, I know this podcast has been going for a little while, but just quickly, the Airbnb story around all of this, which was I created our Airbnb profile because I wanted to write the copy and be in charge of the overall look and feel and the customer journey. And we originally had an agent managing the property for us. Now, a few months in, we were looking at the management statements and the money in the bank and how much Airbnb had said that we'd made. And the numbers didn't add up. And we went back and forth. And so I emailed them and said, it seems like there's money missing. And eventually I got a reply back that was something along the lines of, well, you're the only one of our clients who has their own Airbnb profile. So you are the only person who's picked it up. It was the most random response. Turns out the agent was embezzling money from every single client. And they were one of the biggest agencies in the area. They would have had hundreds of properties on their books. So if you think they were taking between $50 and $100 out of every booking. So if you think they're doing that over hundreds and hundreds of properties, that's a lot of money that's not being accounted for. And what they would just do is say Airbnb paid out $1,000, they would just report that you only got $900, right? So you as the client didn't actually realize that you were missing the money, but it was only that we could tally up the fact that we owned our own marketing real estate. We could see how much should be coming in. Now, they ended up getting charged by the police and a whole bunch of other stuff. But if you don't own that platform, then in this case, it's not exactly the same, right? But the fact that we could get our own data out, the fact that we could access our own financial information was so ridiculously important because we could have gone on for ages and lost a lot of money. So I want you to be thinking about that when you're marketing your business is you should own your own platform. By the same token, we have our own website for Southern Belle Mollymook. Yes, we rely on Airbnb and booking.com, but a lot of the repeat business that we get actually comes from people booking direct. So it does mean that worst case scenario, if something happened and we lost a platform or two, it's okay. We can still market our business. We could run ads to our own website. We can't run ads, which I have done, to Airbnb. Well, we can, but we don't have all the pixel information and all that kind of stuff. So having your own platform, your own marketing real estate, whether it is your email service provider, whether it is your website, that is so important as you grow and scale because you need to be able to reach out to your customers, whenever you want to and not be at the mercy of somebody else. Alrighty. So let's just quickly recap we ended up with 5 marketing lessons that I've learned from owning an Airbnb. Number 1, copy is super important. Number 2, automation has to be leveraged. It is key for growing your business without burning out. And it builds that customer experience. 3, reviews are critical. 4, pictures sell. Pictures and vignettes. Let's go with pictures and vignettes sell. So your windows, your website, the actual product descriptions, landing pages, all those things, pictures sell. And the last one is to make sure you own your own marketing real estate. Don't build your brand on somebody else's platform. Make sure that you always have access to your customers. And so kind of wrapped up in all of that, ties back to the beginning, is understanding that customer journey, understanding what your customer is looking for when they're shopping with you. is going to help you to really dig down into all of those things so that you can address any of their concerns as they shop with you, and that will keep them coming back again and again. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. I love talking about property. I love talking about property. I love kind of giving you an update of what's happening in our life. And if you're looking to have a sticky beat at our property, it's called Southern Belle Mollymook. I'll pop a link into the show notes. Country House Rescue has already been sold, so I don't have any pictures for that one. Or you can go and search for it. You'll probably be able to pick it out from all the properties in Cowra that have sold because it is very, very unique, aka fancy. And I will see you guys back here same time next week. Bye. So that's a wrap. I'd love to hear what insight you've gotten from this episode and how you're going to put it into action. If you're a social kind of person, follow me at @TheSelena and make sure to leave a comment and let me know. And if this episode made you think a little bit differently or gave you some inspiration or perhaps gave you the kick that you needed to take action, then please take a couple of minutes to leave me a review on your platform of choice. Because the more reviews the show gets, the more independent retail and e-commerce stores just like yours that we can help to scale. And when that happens, it's a win for you, a win for your community, and a win for your customers. I'll see you on the next episode.